Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your boy Mongo Slade. So today we're going to talk about age one more time. So Mickie James made a comment about age and women. So this is what she had to say on Twitter. This is a conversation she was having with Taya Valkyrie. Taya tweeted out, "Why do people talk about age like it's a negative? Just think, you woke up today, you are blessed to see another morning. Never forget, age brings wisdom, experience, confidence. It's a blessing." Mickie James responded, "I agree 1000%. In this industry, once you hit 35 as perceived, you should start wrapping it up and retire as a woman. Even though you're just hitting your stride. At 40, quote unquote, retire already. Even though the men are champs well into their 50s and glorified for it. Sad but true. With age comes a strength and wisdom that you can't teach. I feel more powerful and sexy than I ever have, yet it's only this way because this is the narrative we accepted to be okay. We pushed this mindset and it's damn time we changed it. Times have changed, and so are we." So she's talking about women, specifically, of course. Now, when it comes to women, WWE doesn't really, they used to, I could say maybe in the past, they probably forced women out in the early 30s, mid 30s. But you have several women now who are in their late 30s and are champions. Asuka is one of them. She's almost 40. Shayna Baszler is 40. So, you have some women who are in their mid to late 30s or late 40s, or not late 40s, but early 40s, that are still considered viable wrestlers. Now, there's not that many as far as women are concerned that are still wrestling into their 40s. I think Jazz is almost 50, and she's still wrestling in Impact, and nobody seems to have a problem. It's just that women usually have a change in priority. Women's bodies are different from men's bodies. I know that's really something I should say from the jump. At the athletic part of a woman's career has, like all of it when it comes to men, it all adds up. If you're a man and you're wrestling for 25 years or something like that, you do have problems in your later years. For women, it's going to be much worse because they're not built for utility. Let's put it like that. But this age argument continues to come up, and it's been coming up again and again. It's coming up in terms of AEW's new hires. Christian Cage and Big Show, two guys who are over the age of 40. And of course, the people saying WWE only pushes guys over the age of 40. Like I said, sometimes people don't really hit their prime. So Mickie is not wrong. I do think that it's an individual basis. Like maybe Mickie is trying to say that maybe they're saying that she's old. But I think mostly it's due to injuries and different things like that with Mickie. They probably don't want to push her out there, and it's probably going to end up being a similar thing with Asuka coming up. If she got like a serious concussion and she can't perform, it's probably going to be like, hey, you're 40, you got concussion issues. Maybe that's it. I think that was the issue with Christian as well in WWE. As they kind of looked at him and said, look, advanced age, history of head injuries, or something like that, probably not as much. I know that Daniel Bryan is younger than Christian is. And they also retired Edge. So they have a history of, you have serious injuries with advanced age, they will cut it off. Like Goldberg, despite being 54, has no serious injuries. I think he might have gave himself a concussion. That might be it. But he has no serious surgeries or anything like that that keeps him down. But Eric Bischoff also talked about this age situation. And I think he had a very intelligent response to it. And I think it's close to what I was saying about what I said previously in a video that Dave Meltzer was talking about. There's a correlation between your audience, your 18 to 34 demographic disappearing, and the age of your performers being over the age of 30 or something like that, to that degree. I'll probably put that video for new listeners in the description. But Eric Bischoff had something that was really important that I thought to add to it. So this is what Eric Bischoff said on his podcast. "I think the whole idea of age it'll be worth a discussion and maybe even a show specifically about this topic. I think it all started during the Monday Night Wars. I think it all started when Vince McMahon, thinking that Hulk Hogan had no longer had any value, that Randy Savage no longer had any value, that Roddy Piper no longer had any value, that Ric Flair no longer had any value, that so many of the big established names were just kind of, it was time to put them out to pasture. You could go all the way back to the Warrior and Hulk Hogan in WWF when Vince wanted to put the belt on Warrior because he felt like Hogan was done. When was that? 91, 92, when Hogan was 37, 38, or whatever it was. Once part of that roster came to WCW and started kicking Vince McMahon's ass on a regular basis, what did Vince do? He started framing and contextualizing aforementioned talents as being too old and washed up, and has-beens. Vince made fun of Age a lot, that the performers we were using to beat his ass. That kind of perpetuated throughout the peripheral wrestling media, and Age became a subject. This is not wrong, because guys like Vern Gagne, guys like Nick Bockwinkel, they used to be champions well into their 40s. And nobody had a problem with them being old. Ric Flair also was champion well into his 40s. Nobody really had a problem with Flair until he went to WWE, and he was kind of considered labeled old. Even though I think Flair's thing was, he just wasn't suited for the WWF style. It's just, they couldn't really do his stuff, and he couldn't really do the stuff that they wanted him to do. But it is very true that Vince McMahon wanted to put Randy Savage down. One of the most famous stories is that Randy Savage wanted to put over Shawn Michaels before he left. And Vince just was kind of like, nope. And it was like, what? You know, I forget where, I think Lenny Poffo tells the story that that Randy Savage came to Vince with like an entire script of how him and Shawn Michaels could have this year-long story that ends at WrestleMania 10. And Vince was just kind of like, nope. And just thought that Savage was just too old and should go and do commentary. And we all know that Vince was trying to replace Hogan as soon as possible, especially when the 90s hit, 91, 92, he was trying to get Hogan out of the way. So, yeah. We could blame this one on Vince, because in the old days, Bill Watts and Fritz Von Erich and all those guys still wrestled into their 40s, and some of them even was able to still draw in 50s and 60s years old. But, yeah. So the Dave Meltzer thing, it's become a topic recently because Dave Meltzer is talking about it and making a big deal about it. But usually it's all about whether people want to see you or not. Okay? If people still want to see you, it doesn't matter how old you are. I think we've proved that with guys like Undertaker and guys like Vince McMahon himself, who could still, if Vince was going to wrestle at 74 years old, right? 78, however old he is, I guarantee you there'd be a line of people waiting to see it. Just for morbid curiosity, if nothing else. But TNA also proved that some of these guys still have some drawing power in their 40s. They have Foley and Sting and all those guys in the main event. AEW recently did a huge number for their buy-weight for their pay-per-views after promoting Sting, as this is going to be Sting's first match in 5 years. There's no reason to believe, well, that in the barbed wire match, I guess. But they promoted Sting heavily for several months before the barbed wire match was even announced. Sting was one of the guys that they really promoted as a top guy. Sting is over 60. We'll circle back to the women in a minute, but I want to continue with Eric Bischoff's comment. He says, look at some of the biggest hits, and I'm going to pull a couple that are older now because I've kind of analyzed them over the years, but they still hold up. Sons of Anarchy on FX, the average age of the cast of Sons of Anarchy is probably 55 years old. It had the strongest 18 to 49-year-old male demos of any show in its time period at that time, or close to it. So I think when people who don't know fuck all about television, really, because they're never really done it, and start talking about granular aspects of television like the relative age of characters compared to the target audience, they run themselves into a ditch because they don't know what they're talking about. The audience doesn't feel the same way about the age of talent as the people who write about it do. Correct, to quote The Miz. Undertaker could still, only the people who write about wrestling was saying Undertaker was too old and he needs to go away. Most of the fans were still lining up to see him. It was the same thing, like I said, with Hogan and Sting and all of these types of people. It's only the people on the internet who goes on and on and on about age, and it's, of course, it's also a thing where people are saying it depends on which side of the fence you sit on. If you're 48 years old and you're the world champion in AEW, you're putting over young guys, you're becoming a big star. If you're 47 years old and you win the Royal Rumble in WWE, you're taking up a young man's spot, you should get out the way. That's the kind of mentality that they're promoting on the internet. Because Chris Jericho was almost 50 when he was the world champion in AEW, and nobody cared. Okay, nobody said anything about him being old. Nobody said anything about Jericho being old until Jericho started to look old. That is, he started, almost falling on his head, and he couldn't work a whole match, and that kind of thing. So this is the kind of conversation that we ended up having. So it's not just women, and Mickie James is kind of wrong there when it comes to women. Now, women do make the choice not to continue working well into their 40s or whatever, because sometimes when they get young, when they start in the business young, they haven't had children or anything like that yet. So when they start getting a little bit older, it starts becoming, okay, I want to have a family. You can't really, it's very hard for a woman in her 40s to conceive and, be able to raise a healthy baby. So they start to kind of peter out. And then, some of them never come back. Some of them do. But most of them, once they start having kids, they don't come back. But this is also used to be a thing in the music industry. There used to be a thing in the music industry, like once you have your first baby as a woman, your career is pretty much over. And it's held true for a long time, and very few women have been able to bounce back from going away and having kids. Beyonce is cool and all, but not many people could do what Beyonce did. And not many women, are going to be 40, 42, 43 years old, still wrestling and still performing at a high level and still able to get in there and get busy. Now, that's not to say that there aren't still some women out there who, we haven't seen to have the fountain of youth. It's entirely possible. But you have to look at people's choices. Is it a choice that they're choosing to walk away, at 35, 36 years old because, now it's getting up there in age, they want to have families and stuff like that, or is they being forced out? And Mickie James are saying basically they're being forced out, that the women are being forced out. I don't know if that's true or not, because where do they go? Well, you have Victoria or whatever. She went and did a run, and when she left WWE, she went and did a run in TNA. But has she tried to come back since? And, could she go back to TNA if she wanted to? TNA meaning Impact, for those of you who don't know. But I don't know. It seems that most people are going to favor, especially when it comes to women, younger, more attractive performers. It just is what it is, because, there's always going to be a favoritism towards younger performers, period. Except with the exception of at the highest levels. At the highest levels, it's going to be mostly the older people, because they're going to be more matured and more prepared for that role. So I don't think that I think Mickie James has a good point that, sometimes women are, shoehorned. Well, let's not say shoehorned. Let's say ejected from top spots as they age. But it's the same for everybody. This has been a talking point for a long, long time now, that certain people are just too old, or they need to move on. Like John Cena is barely 40, and Randy Orton are barely 40, and these guys are pretty much part-timers. They wrestle like once every couple of months. Well, Cena hasn't wrestled since WrestleMania. Well, he hasn't. Before that, he hasn't had a real match in over a year. But Randy Orton is not a regular performer. He wrestles probably twice a month. Then he's almost, and I don't think he did wrestle at the Royal Rumble. I was about to say, he didn't wrestle he did wrestle in Elimination Chamber, but he hasn't wrestled that often. It's sometimes weeks go by without Orton wrestling, and Orton is over the age of 40. So sometimes it's that, but I'm not saying that she's wrong. I'm just going to say is that it's a difference, that it's always going to be whether people want to see you or not. Are you on that level? Like Trish Stratus could come in at 40 and be fine. Lita could come in at 40 and be fine. Mickie should be on that level, but maybe she's just not. Okay. But let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of people were really excited at the idea of Melina coming back. I think Melina is over the age of 40, or she's late 30s, one of the two. But we don't know. I don't think it's a sexism issue though. I do believe it's just people have a bias against performers of any kind over the age of 30. And there's been this talking point on the internet for a long time that once you hit a certain age, you should be wrapping it up. And it's not necessarily true. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Use the hashtag 3Count Commentaries to support the channel. Also, if you want to send me an email, send MrSlade84@gmail.com. If you want to send cash, send it to the Cash App, which will be in the comment section below. Hit the like on the video, sorry, and because that will help the algorithm and help spread the channel. And thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.